Hello, good evening. Welcome to Promise Resource Network. This is Expansions, and I'm Jane. I'll give everyone a moment to tune in while we dive into, explore, and expand the spiritual dimension of wellness, which is so flippin' vast that we could really talk about mostly anything. Um, and I do have specific topics that I like to talk about. So hopefully you all will seriously participate and chime in and join me on this one because I actually need and want your feedback for this one. I want to say, hey, Linda, how are you? I'm so happy you're here. I am much closer to you because I am still in the New Jersey. So I know, I don't know exactly where you are, but I know I'm closer. And it snowed here today, y'all. Oh my gosh. Y'all, the flakes of snow were so big. Like, it was really great. Not a lot stuck, so there aren't going to be any like photos or anything. But at one point, I was looking out the window, and there were just like they weren't snowflakes; they were like snowflake chunks. Let's be honest. But anyway, there were just these big, massive chunks flying out of the sky. It was fantastic. Oh, so good, y'all. So good. So good. So hopefully you're doing well as you hop on. Tell me how you're doing. I would like to know how you are. And I know if you're reading the caption, you might be like, this sounds like a Debbie Downer. But I'm actually really curious to hear what you have to say about the question that is on the bottom of the screen. One day I'm gonna get these like finger points to go the right way and stuff because it's backward. I want to say good evening to Charles. How are you? Good evening, Tanisha. How are you? So y'all, I didn't bring my singing bowl. I didn't bring my sage. I don't really know where my Palo Santo is. I know I brought it, but it's somewhere packed. Um, so Charles is saying that he's tired and wet, or is the weather tired and wet? I'm definitely more tired. That's okay though. It's good. So I don't have my singing bowl or anything like that. So I will request for me and for all of us before we begin, and this is just an encouragement. So you do you how you want to do this, but if you want to follow along with me, I'm going to encourage a 6-second inhale, just a little pause at the top, and a 6-second exhale with a pause at the bottom. Okay. I want to say good evening to Sharon. Michael says it looks like I have a red aura around me. Oh, maybe I do. Hey, Lauren, how are you doing? I'm so happy you're here. I really am. So yeah, y'all. Normally, I do the sound bowl and we all like connect. Yes, right, Lauren. I'm so excited that this is the topic. Like, for real. Because let's be honest, most of us don't really know, but we've all been taught something, and that's what I'm excited about. Oh, Marv's here in the house and says, "Hi, everybody." That's not really how he said it, but that's how I say he says it. He probably is more like, "Hi, everyone." So let's just take a couple breaths together so that all of us that are on here literally just kind of click in together. So good evening, Alan. I know I keep interrupting myself, but I'm really excited as y'all are telling me, hey. Okay. So I'm gonna do a 6-second inhale. I'm gonna pause at the top. I'm gonna do a 6-second exhale and pause at the bottom. I'm gonna do that 3 times. You do you. If that's just breathing, regular, no counting, that's totally cool. Okay. But I just want to drop in. So I'm gonna breathe in for 6 seconds. Inhale. And exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. And let's just all feel our body on this earth. Just feel it. Feel the weight of you. Feel the energy of everyone here right now, tuned in, and all the people that will tune in another now. Bring awareness to all of the other spirited beings that are joining us, you, me, all of us. And let's all just acknowledge the great oneness, the hub of spirit in the sky, the universal source of energy, creator. Acknowledge that always has the focus on and through you. I'm going to take another breath in. And I'm going to let it go with a sigh. Now I feel like I'm here. Hopefully you feel like you're here with me. I feel like we're all connected. I want to say good evening to my mother who is joining us. Hello, Mama Jane. So, y'all, I want to talk about this one. I feel like this is a topic that was taught to me only in ways of fear. I want to talk about death because we are all going to experience it firsthand if you haven't already. Meaning you're going to die. And so am I. And that's what we're supposed to do. Like, really, true story. Like, we really are supposed to do this. And we're also eternal beings, which means we're forever, which means that we actually have this immortality aspect within us. So I want to talk about this. I want to expand on this. I want your feedback, your ideas, and all this stuff. So I just want to share my the Jane. Where did Jane come from in this story of death, right? Aside from having an older brother that plopped her down in front of the big box television on a stand and had her watch things like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, The Exorcist, and Carrie, and Psycho, and all these other scary movies. And having a dad that also really enjoyed these movies, so I got to watch these. So death was something that I got to witness very frequently on a screen in very traumatic, dramatic, tragic ways. On top of that, I was raised in the Catholic kind of sort of upbringing, which taught me the way it was interpreted to me, and was that so you live and then you die, and when you die, you either go up in the sky to pearly gates where a big white man named God was going to judge you. Some stories told me that there was another old white dude, I think St. Peter was his name, and he was going to be the one to open the gates or not. Depends on what story I was told. So anyway, so then I would get to this God, right? This white dude in the sky. And this white dude in the sky would say, well, Jane, very similar to Santa Claus, which is pretty effed up. And he would say, Jane, you know what? You did some crap there on Earth when you were a human, and you weren't necessarily kind to everybody, and you did X, Y, and Z that was just kind of wrong. So now I'm going to judge you, and you're going to go to hell. Or he would have said, girl, you were so fantastic when you were an Earth human. Come on in, man, party's hopping. Or he would say, you know what? I don't really feel, I don't, purgatory. Yeah, you get purgatory. You get the big P on you. That's what I was taught. That was what I was taught about death. Period. I was taught not to kill, but I could eat animals. I was taught not to kill, and yet the system that punished people by means of death was okay. So I got a lot of mixed messages. So my first question to you is just not necessarily all the what, but where did you get your information about death? TV, movies, media, parents, school, society, government, religion. Where did you get your data of what happens with death? Please. I don't want to read what y'all are saying. Marv says not knowing what happens next is what causes them to fear. Yeah, totally. Linda says, wouldn't God technically be every color? Just thinking out loud. Oh, yeah, totally. Yeah, I don't agree with that he's a white man in the sky. Not even a little bit. I don't think it's the he. I think that God having a penis or a vagina would be very strange. But that's just me. That's just me. Right? So, yeah, all the things that I had been taught, I don't agree with anymore. None of those resonate for me when I sit with them at all. Yeah. Yes. Sharon's like, yes. So where did you learn? Where were you taught? What was the source of information that told you about death? I'm very curious. Lauren shares that that's what I was taught as a child too from my parents, but my beliefs were shattered when my mind was open in college. Oh, and then I was diagnosed with panic disorder and thought I was experiencing death through panic attacks lots and lots of times since. Ooh, that could be intense. For reals. Yes. When we have our minds opened through a myriad of ways, it can definitely shatter this belief system that we were taught, right? Which is usually whatever we're taught is just a repeat of what someone else was taught or through their own lived experience. And that's interesting because what you just shared, thank you for sharing that. Because can you imagine, right? Like if you're taught like that death is this thing, either heaven, hell, or purgatory or whatever, and you have a life experience in the now that makes you feel like you're dying, talk about freaking me out, right? The last thing I would ever want to do is get like that close to feeling like I was going to die because what if I had to like back talk my mom that day and, like I didn't honor thy mother. Great. I didn't clean my room. Oh, shoot. I feel you on that one. Mama Jane shares that she was taught about death by the Catholic school, church, and parents. Yeah. So you got the double whammy on the church, and your parents were also Catholic, right? Both of them? Like all of the parental caregiving figures around you were also Catholic. So it was a very, very Catholic heavy teachings for you. I want to share, let's see, Alan shares, I wasn't taught anything about death. Got my exposure by losing many friends to death in the 80s and 90s. Ooh, that is a way to experience death. And then, Alan, I ask you, did you question what happens next? Meaning, not meaning what do I do now, but what happens to them? Did you ask yourself that? Did you go into that space? Or was it just not like but was it more so just like, I'm going to mourn the loss and then, move on? Or did you go in there and like, where are they? Right? Like, where are my friends? Can I connect with them? Can I not? Like, I'm curious. Charles says, I saw, experience, cause death from either firsthand knowledge or the stories of others. I came up with the feeling that death to me has always been an ending of one experience and the beginning of another. My body will feed the earth while my soul, spirit, whatever you want to call it, moved on to the next realm. An ending of one experience and the beginning of another. So then I ask you, Charles, quick, what is the beginning of another? I'm really enjoying this conversation, y'all. I want to say good evening to Kristen joining us. I'm happy you're here. Shares. I was raised in a Christian household, so I was taught many of the same things about death, heaven, hell, etc. But now that I'm older, I think there is a very thin line between the land of the living and the land of those who've passed on. I feel that as well. Definitely feel it's a very thin veil, right? You can see so many things through a veil, and yet you can't reach through it physically, but everything about you. I could, this is going to sound weird, but this is the image that just came into my head. I could eat a ton of garlic, not literally a ton, but I could probably eat like half a pound of garlic. It would need to be roasted because I love that conversation with Flash. Not really, I'm going somewhere. So if I ate like half a pound of roasted garlic and I have a veil in front of me and I'm holding it, okay, and you're on the other side, I can see you, you can see me, and if I go, whew, you're going to smell it. Right? You're going to sense it. You're going to sense the essence of what I just put out. You can see me, but it's fuzzy. But you can't reach through the veil. Right? I love that you shared that, Kristen. Thank you for that. Let's see. Sharon shares. I love Sharon sharing. She shares and it makes me happy. Anyway, Sharon shares. I was taught by a very male-oriented high church. Very masculine favoring. I was a rebel about it even at the age of 12. Death was taught and salvation was restricted. Oh, I know in some teachings, death is the salvation. And I know in other teachings, the salvation is here on earth so that, like, the death is good, easy, heavenly, a reward system. Thank you for sharing that, Sharon. And Tara, good evening, my dear, shares. I believed in heaven and hell until 2018 when a friend of mine died for 2 hours. She's now alive and well. When she came back to life without any real medical resuscitation efforts, the things that she could tell you that happened while she was gone totally changed what I now know and believe. There is no death. There is only transformation. Thank you for this next line because this is what I was going to share in this whole line anyway. Y'all listen to this. This is the law of conservation of energy because y'all know I'm a big science geek. Energy is neither created nor destroyed. It is simply transferred from one dimension to another. This is a law of nature. This is a law of physics. We cannot create and we cannot destroy energy. Period. So it's not like we just poof, we're gone. We actually, on a scientific level, we get alchemized. We get transmuted. We shift. Right? So if we shift, what do we shift to? Right? Do we shift to the afterlife? You know what, Tara, I'm really glad you said that because not just that part, because, I'm like, quantum and metaphysics, yes. And the fact that there are many people on this earth realm who have died. I'm very close to one of them, and I'll let them share their story from the I perspective because it's not for me to share. And have you noticed that a lot of people who've actually died have had similar experiences? That they feel not attached to anything, not attached to this earth world, not attached to their body, not attached to family. And yet the heart, the love that they feel for these things, lack of a better word, attaches them. They see, they experience, they feel this grand light. And they feel love. They feel held. They feel connected. They feel peace and bliss. They feel home. And they also can feel this desire, right? This like, yeah, and I want to hug my kids again, because in that space, you don't have like arms and stuff, So I think it's really interesting that people all over the world who have had what they call NDEs, near-death experiences, which is silly because they are death experiences. Anyway, but they're all so similar. And yes, Lauren, garlic is life. Yes, it is. I made a really good roasted garlic soup. I used 3/4 of a pound of garlic. My immune system is great. Good evening, Darlene. I am so happy you're joining us. It's so good to see you on here. Charles shares, not sure if I got to choose this experience, this one, or got to choose this experience, this one or not, but I would like to think I might get to have a say in the next. Ooh, all right. That's a fun one. So do you think you chose? Okay, let me rewind that. In many beliefs, right? Death, you get reincarnated. You know, that we are in this cycle, right? It's like if you're a tree, you shed your leaves and your seeds, right? Your pollen, whatever, and it goes into the earth and you mix and alchemize with the soil and the nutrients and love and all the good things that the earth herself has to offer. And then you begin to sprout again, right? Now, granted, if you had been the oak tree, you're going to be another oak tree, right? Are you going to be bigger? Are you going to be weaker? Are you going to be stronger? Are you going to last longer? You know, are you going to turn into somebody's furniture, somebody's flooring, right? Like, what do you turn into in that life? So then there's that notion, that idea of reincarnation. And now some believe that when you get reincarnated, that, you know, your energy gets transformed and transmuted to another being. So say I come back next time as a dog or as a cricket or a bird or a man or a black, and the list goes on. You know, so what's the difference between the metaphysical knowing of energy is not created or destroyed? So when you die, the energy doesn't blip out. It's going to change and shift and all these other things. So what's the difference between that and reincarnation? Or is there one? Topics. I want to say good evening to JC, who just said a moment ago, and I just now saw this. I just hope I don't come back as a dung beetle. Ew, poop. I'm so glad you brought up poop. Damn, it makes me laugh every time, like poop jokes. I know that wasn't a poop joke. I know you're probably serious. I don't want to come back as a dung beetle either. Tara says, beam me up, Scotty. Sharon says that what she was taught was believe in the laws of the church and follow them, right? Not only follow the rules, but you got to believe in them. And if not, you go to hell, which was very similar to the Christian colonization that like overtook so much of the land and the cultures that had been indigenous to, like, I don't know, Earth. So like the Christians that came in to colonize and say, you're being my way, they literally said that. They said, you not only have to follow our rules, but you have to believe in them. By you believing them, you cannot do all of the things that your culture has been doing for centuries. And if you don't do that, you're going to go to hell. Don't worry, hell will be on earth because we will kill you. We'll take your land. We'll take your home. We'll enslave you. We'll prison you up, like all those things. So it's interesting that that belief system, Sharon, is actually the system that we are currently living in now. Which brings me to the idea of hell, which I want to read what y'all are saying first. Charles says, you can't reach through the veil, but sometimes it can smack you in the keister. Yes, it can. When I had asked Alan, like, hey, like, what did you experience after your friends had transitioned? Because he wasn't taught about death. He says, I didn't question what happened afterward, but I have pictures of many of them in my living room. We sang in men's chorus. Oh, every now and then I look at a framed picture of my best friend, Dan, and try to speak to him. I was seated by his bedside when he took his last breath. Oh, I'm so glad you're with him. That is such a gift for both. I think that all of the losses numbed me. I was wrapped up in myself back then. Right? It's interesting how death can numb us. And often, like I just spoke with someone who was with someone when they transitioned. And she was having a really hard time handling that. It resonated in her as a trauma. You know, like she's still processing it. And I've been with someone when they've taken their last breath as well. And I was still, emoting and feeling. And I felt it to be such a gift that I got to be the one that was in that space while their biggest energy part of them literally transmuted into something else that I couldn't see, that I could feel. So as weird as this may sound, Alan, I'm glad that you've been able to hold that space for people to transition. And it sucks when we're the ones left behind, just the same. And yes, Sharon, yes, Lauren, I will give you my garlic soup recipe. I need to find it because it was unmade. Oh, good. Kristen says she's loving this conversation. Me too, right? We don't talk about death. Oh, Kim is in the house with Ari. Hey, Ari. Hi, Kim. I'm excited to see you too. But it's Ari. You know what, Kristen? I'm finding that there are many topics that are not talked about in our culture that are a part of our human existence. It's like news about the earth isn't shared on the news. Anyway, that's another story for another now. Anyway, but I feel like these are conversations that like we need to have because we're all going to die. And we're all going to deal with what it feels like after others around us die. And I don't want to have so much of a fear about dying that I don't live my life now. And I think that's a huge population of humans. Like, oh, you know what? Like, I really want to just sell everything and travel to Fiji and live on an island and be in the sun and swim with the fish. Man, but I told my father that I would be successful, I would take over his business or I would follow in his footsteps, right? I need to go keep this job so I can retire. And I don't want to dishonor my father. So I'll keep living his dreams. Because I'm afraid that if I don't, there's a part of me that has this internal dialogue program that says, I'll go to hell if I don't. Interesting, right? JC says, I've heard that people are that are Pisces are on their last cycle and transcend to their next life experience. Maybe that's why we are the crybaby of the zodiac. Yes. The Pisces is definitely like the last. It's like the last of a cycle. And everything is cyclical, right? Everything is cyclical. Because everything is cyclical. There's a pattern in everything, even the way fire burns wood. There's a spark, there's the fire, the wood starts to change form. Next thing you know, it starts to settle down. Parts go into the air. Some just damn near disappear. The fire itself, parts turn into smoke. Does the smoke just poof? No, it goes into billions and billions and billions of pieces into the ethers. That is funny. You call him the crybaby of the zodiac. I love all Pisces. I really do. My mom is a beautiful Pisces. Good evening, Keisha's in the house. I'm so happy you're here. She shares through experience. I was taught to keep living, keep going. Don't stop. Don't talk about it. Support the living family. Through studies of philosophy and religion, I trust what happens next. So glad you shared that. I'm so grateful that everyone is sharing everything. It's interesting, as some of you may know that I'm in New Jersey now because a family member of Michael transitioned. And so we're here. And it's very interesting. I noticed that some people are nervous to mention this person's name because they don't want to hurt or upset someone else, right? I don't want to mention it, And it's like, if there's an elephant in the room, I may not want the elephant in the room, but I can't not, like, it's there. So it's interesting that part of your upbringing was to not talk about it. I feel like what that part of your upbringing is super common in our just like culture here, that it's like almost a taboo topic. I remember when I was a hairstylist forever, we had 3 topics I was not allowed to talk about with my clients: politics, religion, and sex. Top 3. And I feel like death is this like little baby that's in there that's like, You cannot talk about me, but you kind of can, but not really. Burr, burr. Don't y'all find that weird that we can't talk, but we talk about people having babies all day. In fact, we tell people how they should have their babies, how they shouldn't have their babies, where they need to have their babies, who needs to be there, what vaccines that baby needs to get. All 70 something of them when they're born. That's messed up, from my opinion, which we're all entitled to. And anything that I share that doesn't resonate with you, that's okay. You can just let it fly right off. And if it lands, may it land in love. Alan shares, my thoughts about death now. We have an energy, a spirit, a soul that continues to exist after the body dies. Ooh, where does it exist? How does it exist? Because like I have my own thoughts and feelings around all this. Like I've really grounded and landed these for me. And what I want to do is bring an awareness that we're all going to have different ways of interpretation around this. But because so much of this has been tied to different teachings around spirituality or religion that has a lot of dogmatic approaches and viewpoints to it, that we just don't talk about it because we don't want to offend someone or step on toes, or what if I say something? What if I believe that there's a white man in the sky and he's going to judge me, and I don't want to share that with Jane because she's spiritual? Please feel free to share, because this is a no judgment zone. JC shares, I've always had issues if there is a God. It is a man, as a woman are those that give birth, and that's quite controversial thought. That's quite controversial though. Totally. Yeah. Like, I see everything as breaking down to energy. Energy to, may I share this? Yeah, it's the time. So the way I see it is we have like energy. Energy is going to be sensed through our higher senses. So we will sense it through feelings and emotions, right? Like you can feel stuff before you see it. You can think of a cookie and your mouth is going to salivate and your heart's going to be like, I want a cookie, or I want to bake a cookie, right? So we have like this energy of purity, non-polarity, pure, like, bam, absolute energy. And then it's going to start to polarize as it starts to fractal off, right? And in that, there are like bits of data, consciousness, shapes, patterns, numbers. I just got the Lucky Charms in my head. Anyway, all this stuff, feelings, emotions, and blah, blah, blah. And as it starts to get heavier and more dense, we become manifest. We become humans. We start to feel negativity because we start to live in a more polarized universe that we've chosen to live in. So it's almost like every time we ascend, we can live this like higher frequency life. So I can live more as this God embodied as me. And once I'm kind of like, done with that game, then my energy is going to kind of go effervescing back up to that oneness. If I so choose, perhaps I so choose for it to maybe go down another level, right? Maybe it goes down into a density. So maybe my next living experience is to be born as a little baby Asian boy that owns the kingdom. Who knows, right? But yet I'm, also going to be like, not cool, whatever. Or I fight the wars or whatever. Anyway, or when I die, I can effervesce, and I can, if I don't go all the way back up to source, if I choose to go back up to source and stay and come back down, then maybe I come back as a momentary cloud, or another body. Maybe I come in as another Jane, and who knows? But like, I feel like there's this ever moving situation with life and energy. And it's only controversial because people are still holding on and wearing those damn judgy pants. So last season, JC. So last season. Right? Charles says, I'm not saying I'll come back here. I'll be looking for the newest, funnest, happiest happening thing. Right? Like, what if we get it? Like, what if, right? Here's a what if. What if when we die as a human that we get to come back as like a galactic being? What if we get to come back as like a Pleiadian? What if we get to come back as a Lemurian? What? The Lemuria was the ancient, Jane. It's all now. Maybe the ancients were the future aliens that have all left us cues and clues and symbols and all that stuff for us to like Hansel and Gretel and pick out for us to live now in the most glorious way. Heaven on earth time, right? 5D, New Earth. Want to say hey to Roberta. Hope you're keeping warm. Sharon shares, I agree. Our spirit is eternal. We all have God in us, so we live on in spirit. Believing this has helped me with my grief, with the grief of losing family and friends. Right? We are eternal. I wonder if I shared this last time. I shared it a couple weeks ago. It may have been last week. It's timelines. They're all now to me. And it's a mantra that I remind myself of when I'm having like a tough time, and also for like my higher self's purpose. And it's in Sanskrit, but it translates to lead us from the unreal to the real, lead us from the darkness to the light, lead us from the fear of death to the knowledge of immortality. And then it follows itself with peace, peace, peace. And that's what I keep remembering. Like when people and I get butthurt, that it's like, oh, today sucked. Oh, this feeling's gonna last forever, right? Like you go through a breakup and it's like, oh, it's gonna last forever. You know, I'm gonna go through this forever. This is bad. Like it's also a blip. We're eternal. We're made of energy. See, Roberta shares that she's comfortable because she's worked in palliative care. That is a gift. Thank you for doing that. Y'all, may I just like give a shout out real quick to hospice? Can we just all like take a deep breath? And as you exhale, just like let love and gratitude pour out to every single hospice person out there whose literal job is to support the comfort of the transition of a human. That's it. That's all they want to do is make sure that you're comfy. And that's like the only thing that you would want is to be comfortable, especially if you're in like a chronic situation. Gratitude for hospice. Or JC says, do you feel people that do horrible things in their life are held accountable next go around? Are they the dung beetles, or is that just a human concept? I love this question because I feel like there is definitely two different beliefs in that. It's either, no, you go to heaven and or hell, right? So there's like a cause and effect, right? This post-mortem cause and effect repercussion situation. And then there's this other like, no, dude, you're just dead, right? Like you just go into that heaven space. You go back to the oneness, to the source, to creator, to that big nebulous of pure, unadulterated, high vibe love. I think it's both. I think it depends on the belief of the being, because energy that we are is data in motion. What is data in motion, otherwise known as, in energy terms, consciousness? It's an awareness. So if Jane believes that Jane will die and become a dung beetle if Jane was an asshole, the likelihood, because that belief has been so ingrained in the consciousness of all of my energy, that when I die and all my form is gone, that energy is still there. So even though that energy can transmute and shift, that energy itself is still so focused that I might in fact come back as that dung beetle. Now, Jane has a belief of, no, when you die, you go back to the oneness and you have freedom. You still have this like this almost like buoyant free will before you go back to the oneness. And maybe on the way up back to the oneness, I decide to jump back in and become an Arcturian. Then that's what Jane will experience. Because that's the belief system. That's the consciousness that I would be holding so much. That's why at the top of the hour, we were talking about like the veil, right? Because we can't create or destroy energy, and you can see through the veil. So you can, if you've ever seen auras, Michael mentioned it at the top of the hour, that it looks like I have like a reddish aura around me. We can see energy that is normally not translatable by anyone else's or many other people's senses. right? So I totally forgot what I was going to say because I had like 14 thoughts all at the same time. Y'all, I'm so good at that. I know I say this every time when it happens, but son of a bee, I hate when it happens sometimes. It's true. What was I going to say? It's about deciding. Come back as I said, I think like a Arcturian. Damn it. I'm just gonna, I'll go back to it. Y'all know I'll forget it and then come back. Oh, I'm so curious. Kim says a repeat minute 33. Oh, is that when you're seeing it? Yes. 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 I'm reading and I'm loving these comments, y'all. Mark shares, some people think that there is no hereafter, but that goes against the definition of energy. What if? Okay, what if that? What if I don't believe that there's anything, right? That there is nothing but complete darkness. If I have a belief that there is darkness only, that belief is the place after death. So therefore, by definition, that would be the hereafter. Right? Yeah. I love that. Kristen shares, we are taught to view time as being linear, but in reality, it's continuous. So I believe that reincarnation is real. Then it's possible to be reincarnated into the past or future. I agree. Because we've been taught, right, that time is like until you get to the end and you're like, that's a really bright hand. Anyway, I had to get a light on in the room. But it's all happening now, right? And if you have ever astrally projected, you can go into timelines. You know, if you dip into the Akashic record zone, you realize that time is a moot point because time and space are only constructs that only go up to like this fourth dimensional consciousness, because beyond that, we start to exceed through the concepts of what we call space and time, because they are rather confining by definition. And if you go into like this big one, wholeness, holiness, source, God place, there is no time, there is no space. It's just ising all over the place. Did that rhyme? Y'all. Let's see. Provocation JC. Hey Meredith. Oh my gosh, I'm so happy you're here. Just talking about death. Pink on the left side of your head, Roberta says. That's what y'all are saying. It's funny because the wall behind me is blue. So that's a thing. But yeah, we are energy. You know, we are consciousness. We are going through this reality, and whatever reality that we believe in is going to be made manifest, whether it's in life or the afterlife. You know, did y'all ever watch the movie Beetlejuice? That was so top of my favorite movie list ever. And it's interesting because, you know, basically they were in that purgatory type of space, right? They were held in that purgatory space by an outside force. What else? Anywho, I had a discussion with someone close to me about this concept of purgatory because they had this deep fear about, well, what if, right? What if I go to those pearly gates with that white dude named God? And I can't help but make that voice, y'all. If it's offensive, totally not my intention, but I literally, it's energy and I can't see God as a dude. Like, does he wear pants? Like, is he gonna put on glasses? No, it's God. It's just energy. It's love. Anyway, cool. But if you call God he and you say God is a he, I think that's fantastic. I say sometimes God goddess. I say creator. I say source. I say it all. Anyway, the pink has spread to my shoulders. But like, I do that. I go down that like tangent and then I totally lose it. I think it's because we're all talking about this really fun stuff to me. I'm just getting excited, I think. Yeah, I haven't done this in a while. I haven't had this and then like completely blank. And then what I do is I think about that I'm blanking. There's probably like some underlying message that I should share, but I can't think of it right now. I need to get 8 hours of sleep. That's what I need to do. Reminds me of Aaron's class, how he talks about how rest is an action of like an actionable decision of self-care. It's not just sleep, it's rest. But we all have these different beliefs. My point that I was going to make at some point. We all have these different beliefs. And I want my prayer is that we can all listen to each other's beliefs and not remotely tell anyone else that they're wrong. You know, like what if I believe that we get reincarnated 17 3/4 time and then you're done? And then someone comes up to me and they're like, nah, dog, nah, you wrong. Nope. Why? Like, why can't we have our beliefs that are steeped in a deep-seated feeling of truth within our hearts, within ourselves, you know, from the stories we've been told or what we've read in a newspaper, like whatever that is. Like, can we hold these beliefs to be our own and to honor everyone else's and to also talk openly and freely about death? Like, here's a question. Are you afraid to die? And is it that you're afraid to die, or are you afraid of leaving behind things unfinished, things as regret? Because that's another thing. Like, I think oftentimes, you know, you read like stories or whatever, parables of sorts of, you know, someone was on their deathbed and they were asking, what did you do? You know, is there anything? And they're like, I regret not wearing those fancy shoes I bought, you know, or, you know, you have people that are actually like literally afraid of dying. And maybe that's because they have a belief system called hell. That's what I was going to say. Boom. Memory. So I was talking with someone and the notion of purgatory was a fear for them, right? And the way I saw that, which is what I was going to talk about before, look at that, it all comes together, was that I think that hell is a mindset here on earth. That's what I personally feel. I feel that we will create so much fear and judgment and lack mentality, and we just stagnate all over the place that we create hell on earth. We are living in that now, like as a collective, right? Not saying that, you know, that like life is hell. What I'm saying is that if you look around, you can see those who are living hell on earth. You can also look around and see people who are living a heaven on earth life. Like they have abundance, they're always nourished, they have all the friends and love support that they could ever imagine. You know, everything's always working out for them. It's like literally their path has been paved in gold. They're living heaven on earth. Some people are living in purgatory, right? Purgatory, they're just being still. They don't know what to do. They don't know where to turn. They don't like to ascend. They don't like to go down. They're just numbing themselves through much distraction. I was in purgatory. I would vacillate between, I was like chunking my life into purgatory when I was doing a lot of drugs and alcohol and like distracting with, you know, unhealthy relationships and all that stuff. TV too, media, boop, boop. That was my purgatory life. And I would realize that and I would feel bad about myself and I would judge it. So then I would drop down and feel and live a life of hell. Like I wanted to die. I wanted to kill myself. I didn't know why I was still here. Hell on earth. And then I would go back up to purgatory and I would be numb. And then something really great would happen, right? Like my niece was born, or I got a puppy, or I got that new job, or I got married, or like whatever, right? I got the new pair of shoes. And I would like pop up and I'd feel so good. And then like everything was great. Sun was shining, rainbows all the time, like puppies all over the place, heaven on earth. And then I would look back down and I would drop back down to purgatory, right? So many people live a life so in fear that what will happen after death, that they are afraid to even go further, reach for the stars, to ascend, to bring in as much of that light that people see at the end of that tunnel. Bring in that light into our now experience, which is what I talk about all the time. It's what Promise Resource Network, I think, is all about, is bringing that light within us now so that we live it now, so that no matter what happens after you die, it doesn't matter. That's what I was going to say. It was about being afraid in the hell and heaven and all that stuff. When I asked, are you afraid to die? Mama Jane said no. Good. Because that would suck. I love that, and I don't read out loud your responses when you respond to others on here because I feel like that's more private. And because I am privy to seeing these responses to each other, I love that y'all respond to each other. Talk about community. Love it. Sharon says, I'm only afraid of leaving behind a big mess for my loved ones to clean up. That fear literally kept me from committing suicide my whole life. At least since I was 9 when I started to have those thoughts. Because I didn't want to leave a mess. I remember growing up and it was like, clean your house, clean your room before you go on a vacation. Because if something happens and you don't come back, you don't want anyone to come in there and see that mess. And if you think about it, if you're not in your body, who gives a shiz? Who cares? Like literally, because there's no care about that stuff. After you've transitioned, there's none of the mind. The mind is gone. The consciousness is within. That's bigger. But the mind that says, "Oh no, I left those dirty shoes on the counter. What are they gonna think?" Or I left that dirty pair of underpants right in the middle of everything. You won't care. Right? But I was totally taught that same thing. That was so ingrained in me. Kimberly shares, I used to be scared of death. Sometimes I drop back into that fear, but it's easier and faster for me to pull out of that fear. What's the worst that can happen? She asks. Right? Like literally, what's the worst that can happen? You're dead. It doesn't matter. One of my first Instagram videos, which if you don't follow me on Instagram, follow me. I don't post a lot, but I also post events and stuff. So it's Jane the Guide. Anyway, one of the first videos I shared was like the day, I think it was like the day that I realized, oh shit, I'm about to quit my job and trust that I don't know what I'm going to do, but I know I'm here to be of service in a bigger way. So I made a little 1-minute video. And it was something like, who cares? You have another choice. You quit the job, you keep the job, you stay in the marriage, you leave the marriage, you get married, you whatever, you do this, you do that. What's the worst that can happen is you get another choice. And then the last thing I said was, what's the worst that can happen? You die. Then who cares? You're dead. Then you're happy, you're in bliss. Unless you have a belief otherwise, and then maybe that's what you create, right? Like if you have such a fear that there is a hell, maybe you do. Maybe that's your reality. Maybe you come back and live another human life yet again. Maybe you become reincarnated again as someone that is still weighed down and depressed and pushed down. Or maybe you're the one that's causing hell for others. Who knows? But I feel you on that. Thank you for sharing that. I don't think I've ever been afraid of death. I've done a lot of meditations and consciousness expanding experiences and traveling in timelines and realities and planets and all those things that I know make me sound wackadoodle when I say it. But it's true. That now the biggest fears that I have nothing to do with the world outside of my limited scope. My fears are that others will hate me, won't accept me, will judge me, because I see that that's still a part of the paradigm and the third dimensional reality we call big parts of now. So I think that when we look at the fears that we have, what really are these fears around death? Where do they even come from? Lauren shares, the fear of death is something that I really struggle with and have for a long time. I think about death every day. Here's a question. Do you think about life just as much? Just a question. It's kind of like, for a long time, I focused on the light, because I know what heals. High frequency heals. it obliterates density and darkness. It's like the magic transmuter and alchemizer. Like it just is. So like that was what I did. So I was focused so much on the light that I wasn't focusing on the dark. So I've gotten to a way more balanced space where I work with the light in the dark. As much as I think about the light, I also acknowledge the dark. And what I do personally is I put that light into those dark places. So like when I look at like my shadow aspect, or wars on earth, or where death is around me, or whatever that is, I acknowledge it. I sit with that. I am with it. And I give it love and compassion and grace. I create around it, right? But I don't always focus on the dark, and I don't always focus on the light. So my question is, as much as you focus on the death, do you focus on the life? Just as much as if you only focus on life and you never focus about death, then what happens is we're going to leave people with a big mess to clean up, right? So I think that these are topics that we get to fully look at in from all angles and perspectives. Like, if you want to look at a cup as half full, be willing to look at it as half empty too, and feel what that feels like of, oh shit, my cup is only half empty or half full. Form some more grace and a different perspective. It's just to be more perspected. Roberta shares, I caught a person in the middle of committing suicide and kept calm and talked them out of it. I was meant to be there for a reason, and when God thinks it's my time, he or she'll take me. Yeah. When thank you for sharing that. And suicide sucks. God, it does. I totally understand it though. Hate that I understand it so much, but I do. And to be able to remind people, each other, myself, right? The I, that I'm here for a reason today. Maybe that's just so I can, like, I don't know, breathe air. Maybe it's just so I can taste water. Maybe it's so I can smile at somebody. Maybe somebody can smile at me, Then we start to remind ourselves that we are here for that very short amount of time in this infinite, timeless space that we call life. Back to that beginning stuff. We're eternal beings. Yes, Lauren says, and I think that death is so beautiful too. I agree. It really is. Yes, meant to be here for a reason, Roberta says. Maybe in our death, people we leave behind that clean up after us will take away a sense of gratitude. Yes, which, on that note, I had a huge challenge with uploading the Love Talks that Michael and I recorded for tomorrow at 5. It is already up on Promise Resource Network's YouTube channel. We're going to air it tomorrow live on Facebook. So you'll be able to, it'll just be aired at the 5. And it's already on YouTube. So if after this, you're really feeling a lot around this death and you're like, you want more and you don't want to wait till tomorrow at 5, you can go to the Promise Resource Network YouTube channel and watch or listen to what Michael and I have to talk about that. Lauren says, I think I love life so much that the absence of life is what I might be afraid of. I love life so much that I hate that I have to sleep ever because it takes me away from living more life. Girl, if you can watch the Love Talks, I think you would really resonate, especially after that sentence or sentences, whatever. And that's another thing, right? Like, time's about up, y'all. I'll get like so enraptured with the love of life that I get this moment of grief. And then I get to blossom back up into gratitude. And then I go into grief like, oh God, it's temporary. And then I'm like, I get to feel grief. I get to feel grief. I get to grieve my own death now in my body. That's a gift. To me, that's a gift. Personally. So anyway. Thank you all. Thank you all. Let's all take another big breath together. And just let it go. Thank you so much for being here with me. Thank you for talking about and sharing so much about a topic that we don't talk about very often. It's not a dirty topic. It's not a bad topic. It's just a part of the reality that we've chosen as a human on the earth plane. So I am so grateful for each of you to be on here with me and to chime in and to share. And any more comments, I will still continue to read them. So post away, share this if this is resonant for you. Share on the Facebook. You can share the Promise Resource Network YouTube channel. We're trying to get a lot more subscribers on that channel, so you can also share that and subscribe. That'd be great. But I'm so glad that each of you are here in your bodies and alive in this now moment, no matter what our beliefs are, whether they're the same or different. I'm so grateful, and I love you all so friggin' much. So much. Love you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. May we live. May we live. May we live in gratitude. All right, y'all. Have a lovely rest of your nows, and I will see you all so soon, okay? Take care.